Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports. I am Charles, as always, or as some people who are angry about our goalie discourse for the Kraken, I am just a question mark. Uh, just always funny. I like pitching people off. Hate me or love me, you watched. So we're joined by Silvia. You'll know Silvia from our Kraken-related content. Silvia, lives breathes hockey. It's coming from a Tri-City Americans game. Again, lives, breathes hockey. So, yeah, bringing you on here, not to talk Kraken. We can ignore the men for a bit here, thankfully. And wanted to talk about the PWHL's Takeover Tour coming to Climate Pledge Arena on Sunday, January 5th. This is the first leg of, I believe, a 9-game tour. As the PWHL looks at a bunch of different cities, with expansion coming. They want to announce two new teams to this league. So obviously it's really exciting. Just from even if the league was just to do neutral sites, but obviously here in Seattle, we are very happy to host this after the rivalry series between Team USA and Team Canada was here back in 2020. I think it was early 23. So just wanted to bring you on here and talk about this game itself. I know I did so with Allison Lucan. We all love Allison Lucan. And then wanted to create more and talk about this game, and I'll talk about these two teams in specific. So I guess before we talk about the teams in specific, I wanted to get your thoughts on the tour itself, whether it be, the cities that they're stopping at, the teams that are involved, the games that are involved. Obviously, Montreal and Boston are two teams that differing ends of the standings right now. Um, and there's some legends in this game that are coming to Seattle. So, just what thoughts do you have on the tour, as a whole?
Yeah, I think for people who've never gotten to experience the PWHL itself, either through the YouTube games or even through their tweets, I think this is a really good primer for a lot of hockey excited cities that do not get to experience women's hockey. In Seattle, obviously, we have our amazing UW hockey team, but they are a club team. So I know Western Washington University, Eastern Washington, we have a lot of colleges here who have tried to start or have previously had college women's club teams. But I think having something like this and calling it a takeover tour, frankly, I think the name itself has a lot of promise for where we are in women's hockey, where women's hockey is has the potential to grow. I mean, we've seen it with a lot of the Kraken games. We've seen the ticket sales too. PWHL Takeover Tour specifically in Seattle is. I think something like this, where it's not just relegated, you don't have to travel to Minnesota or to Boston to watch these Olympic gold medalists and these like super decorated players, do their thing where they're actually coming to you. I think this has like a huge potential to not only, on one hand, like you said, they're trying to find where's our next team going to be, but like they're building fans now. And I think that's the biggest potential for the takeover is that they have this opportunity to show, these college players and these, young girls playing in house leagues that there is something outside of, playing at KCI or playing in some of the smaller rinks in the area, that if you go to college, there is a league ready for you.
Absolutely, and it was always fascinating when you had the oh gosh, there was like the PWF, right? Like the PWHPA, and
The
there was all
PHF.
the yeah, there was all the kind of controversy around that. So, obviously it's difficult that when they created the PWHL, there were some players who lost their spots and all that. But and like we've seen with the WNBA and to an extent the NWSL, like when players, because of the smaller league, there's so much talent on these rosters and talented players will get left off. So yeah, expansion, should be great. And it's exciting to see this. Yeah, like you mentioned, we love UW Women's Club Hockey. Oh, I do. Um, CSS proud supporter of that team since the inaugural season. So well, and obviously covering them. But yeah, no, absolutely. So we'll talk about the teams a little bit here. Montreal, the Montreal Victoire. If the French people in the videos we watched to make sure the pronunciation is right were correct. Um, they're a team that's I think they're at the top of the standings right now. You know, they've had a good week, including over the past week beating Boston in the same matchup. What have you seen from the Victoire? Obviously Marie-Philippe Poulin is there. They've got a great goaltender tandem. What have you seen from Montreal so far this year, at least?
Yeah, and I'm gonna apologize ahead of time for the pronunciation. Like Charles said, we did look this up. I am not a French speaker. I can speak several other languages. French is not one of them. Um, but yeah, for Montreal, they had a bit of a rocky start to the season, but I mean, they're coming to Seattle with such vibes. I think it's the easiest way to describe this team right now. They are like riding high. Um, their primary thing, and I think this is they're kind of a dangerous team right now. Like I said, they started kind of rocky. Right now, they're at the top of the standings. Um, a lot of their scoring is depth scoring. I think they have maybe two or three players that have more than one goal, and I think that's just two goals this season so far. They have at least 10 players that have a goal this season. So you have, a team that's just ready to do what it takes to get that puck in the net. Which we've talked a lot about in with CSS and a lot of these other teams that we cover. So that's kind of the Montreal, the Victoire, kind of, they're kind of the vibey team. They're the team that you look to see, how these young players, these veterans, how they develop with each other, the way that they play. So yeah, they're kind of a beast, and they're going to be entering, or they're going to be coming to Seattle, riding high on some very epic wins. Especially like you said, they recently played Boston a few games ago, which was kind of a struggle bus for Boston, unfortunately. Um, Boston is coming into the season bringing in every single issue that we saw from them last year. They did make it to the playoffs last year, so some low background. They did make it to the playoffs last year. It was kind of a fluke. It was kind of accidental. They made it all the way to the end. They got originally they won, and then they didn't. It was a whole thing.
Oh,
Um,
that's right.
yeah,
Gosh.
so but like Boston is fully riding on some weird like hockey luck right now. Or at least they were last year. Right now, like you said, Boston's kind of at the bottom of this. They are having some serious offensive struggles. When they played Montreal recently, they had 19 shots on goal, and
Mm,
only two of them were in the final period. And they were not very, high quality, high danger shots. They are also a team that just does not perform very well on the road.
mm.
Fortunately, I believe they are the home team here in
Home
Seattle. So
team.
hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully we see something a little bit better. But yeah, they are definitely, like I said, they're seeing the same struggles from last year. It's frankly disappointing. They kind of rely a lot on their goaltenders to keep them out of situations and keep them in the game in and of itself. So that's that's kind of the big thing. I don't think they have actually speaking of on the road, I don't think they have a point on the road this season. So again,
Jeez.
thank God they are the so-called home team here in Seattle. So maybe having that title next to their notes, their player notes, that might change something.
Yeah, no, that'll be fascinating because at least, yeah, someone who I partially, picked watching Boston as my primary team for the PWHL because of Hillary Knight. Salute my captain. We're back to saluting, Sylvia. It's another
Okay.
hockey video, another salute. And it's fascinating with that team. You look at Aaron Frankel's season last year is arguably the best goaltender in the league. Obviously, there were some other great performances as well. Yeah, there was that run to the finals, which was fascinating to watch. I mean, I enjoyed watching it, you know, but I know that scoring was something, like you said, that was such an issue for them. Aaron Frankel had to stand on her head seemingly every night. And it seems like that's again something that, they're struggling with. I know they do have the talent in the forward department, whether it is obviously Knight. Linda Muller. Um, we got Hannah Bilka. So it's just um, that is tough, and it's even more difficult when we have to watch hockey teams that struggle to score anyway. So it's like, wow, we're really keeping it going. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you think that Boston will be able to turn things around? At least I peeked at our I don't know if our friends because we haven't met them and they probably don't know we exist. Well, not me at least. I don't, over at the Ice Garden, reading their standings this morning actually. And they had Boston at the bottom, and it was like not knowing if Boston could turn things around if they didn't do something drastic. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know what would be in their cards here. Again, it seems like at least in their respective league, I'd say the Fleet have more forward talent than the Kraken do, but they're just not getting it done either. So I don't do you think Boston can get things turned around? Could this game and this tour be an opportunity for that, or is it do you think maybe there are issues that they'll need to address going forward and make some big changes as fans kind of always want when things don't go right?
Yeah, I see. Here's the thing. As you know, I'm kind of an optimist when it comes to hockey,
Yeah.
or it comes to
Yeah.
everything. One thing I will say, when you have a team, this is their second year. Sorry, this my dog does not like when my cat tries to touch his treats. Okay, let me start over.
Oh, fair.
What was the question? Turn things around.
Can you think Boston could turn it
Yeah.
around? Yep.
Um, yeah, like I said, I think I'm very optimistic when it comes to hockey and just things in general. This team is very, this is second year. If there were a baby, would not barely be able to talk, you know. So I think with a team like this, and also with a team that has, such a giant like Hillary Knight,
Mm.
people are really putting expecting a lot from this team. And for a certain reason. Again, Hillary Knight, like you said, they have a super their forwards are kind of amazing, and even they're not putting the pressure, it's just very cool to watch the way plays are created for them. But they are bringing in the same problems from the last season again. Their kind of trajectory has been a little fluky, where a lot of the times it does not feel like they should be where they are when they're doing good. um I think a change of scenery, something like this, a change. Hillary Knight has won in that climate pledge before, with that at that rivalry series. I'm really hoping that this kind of change of scenery, this, being able to experience a different energy, different fans, will kind of, heighten the vibes for Boston. They have an incredible power play. I believe they were
Mm.
like top of the league in terms of power play, at least going into that game against Boston, or no, sorry, against Montreal. So being able to harness that energy and being able to like give that full 110%, the full 60 minutes, and not just, first period, second period's okay, and then the third period we're just shooting two shots in, the full 20. I think that's kind of where you need that turnaround. Is it's a change of hoping that change of scene, but I think hoping a change of mentality.
Mm.
I do think it's a little sick that it's, where it's top of the standings versus top of the standings for the first takeover game. um but I'm really hoping it'll be competitive. Both of these teams, and this is something that spans from last year's playoffs, they are like very physical with each other. There's definitely a rivalry brewing here. They are like a heavy hitter kind of match. I'm really hoping for, for that to come out, and maybe that be a thing that spurs either the Victoire or Boston, and just like for us, I mean, either way, it's going to be entertaining. um will Boston win it all? They are the home team, so hopefully, um, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I mean it's fascinating you mentioned Boston's power play. I'm looking here now. Boston does have the top ranked power play, in the PWHL at 27.8. Uh, Kind of different in terms of where their standings are. Montreal's at the bottom at just 8%, which is
Mhm.
fascinating and pretty bad. And then uh, but you look at the penalty kill. This is other stuff. I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about special teams the whole time. Montreal is at the top of the penalty kill, and Boston's right behind them. So, fascinating special teams. I know, again, comparing it to watching the Kraken, strong power play is not what we're used to watching on a nightly basis. So, um, this is more of a league-wide thing. Obviously, this is going to get the PWHL in front of some fans who, might not have watched it before. There are fans here who I'm sure are just hockey fans who want to come and check the things out. Um, this is a good opportunity, especially with KCI, just being around, and you've been there as well. You see all these young girls who will learn to skate now, or in some sort of way, shape, or form getting involved because of the Iceplex in Northgate. There are a few other rinks in the area. Um, but anyway, it is a big opportunity, again, to get this league in front of fans, not only in Seattle, but around the country. What should fans know about this league? I think to me the biggest thing is that you can watch these games, a lot of these games, just on YouTube, right? And a lot of the times visibility in women's sports is the biggest thing. I know the WNBA's deal, media rights deal, it's like they were on Ion. The Storm were this last year. I don't know if you've watched Ion before. I've never watched Ion before. The WNBA signed their media rights deal. Some of these games being on like ESPN, and I know some of the Canadian teams have it on Sportsnet, right? So that's a big thing to me, and I was glad that they've kind of kept that, with this league. But um, yeah, what should I guess fans know about the PWHL? What's your like kind of crash course starter kit thing that fans should know about this league that it will be growing, obviously, as they want to, add two expansion teams in the near future here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me, if I were coming in or like just thinking of going to this game, I think this is the perfect time for anybody who wants to be a fan to start now, especially for people in Seattle who have that experience of hopping onto a team in its infancy. You want to be able to hop into this league in its infancy and be like, I was there from the beginning. I watched it come up. The women's hockey, situation in the sphere has been kind of treacherous for forever. We've had leagues come up and leagues come down, and it's for very different reasons. It's been a little tumultuous, but I think having something a league that is willing and able, as small as it is, that is willing and able to travel. This is the moment. If you've never seen a PWHL game on YouTube, you've never seen the clips on Instagram, on TikTok, this is the moment to hop on. Pick a team. I picked a team honestly solely on the vibes. I have two teams. I can do whatever I want. So pick all of the team. Just like pick a player, and I think this right now is the moment to start. So if you're in Seattle and you're like, I need something to do at 1 p.m. on a Sunday, go to the game. If you're anywhere near KCI on Saturday, go to the practices. And I think right now, engaging with that, some other stuff to know. A lot of these players, we have a lot of veterans. A lot of them are gold medal winners. They're Olympic gold medal winners. A lot of them have been in the Olympics several times. So these are women who know the game, they live the game, they breathe the game much more than I honestly have seen anyone. The women's hockey has been alive. Like this is not a new thing with the PWHL, and I think that's another thing that you'll hear sometimes over broadcast. They're breaking records, they're doing this. The women's hockey has been alive for decades now, for very different reasons, by very different pioneers. But like again, this is the moment you want to hop on. These are women who have been in it for so long. You also have young players, all of your rookies coming out of college. So if folks who love college sports, there's another college sport for y'all to hop on. It's not always football, there's always hockey. And so we're like generally getting the best of the best in the sport. And I think the bigger the sport grows, the more teams we get to have, the more visibility this league gets, the better it'll be. And again, you get that option to be like, I've been here from the beginning. I've watched Hillary Knight maybe have another dry spell for another season. But you've been here from the beginning. So yeah, I think those are the key things. Where it's the incredibly talented folks on the ice. Also, just a reminder, this is a queer friendly space. A lot of the players, a lot of the folks who are within, who work in the sport, who write for the sport, are queer, or have family members. So if you just don't vibe with that, we don't want you here. And I think that's another thing that people have to take with them as they consider, is the PWHL the right sport for me?
Yeah. I mean, I could argue if you're on this channel and you're against that, then unless you're new, then if you're new, then and
Yeah.
you're hating that, then yeah. But yeah, we've been very vocal about that. I'm sorry, I thought about the celebrating with her fiance on the ice tweet. So where's her fiance in the stick? They're gay. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what came to mind. I wasn't laughing at like queer. I was like, no, that's what came into my mind. Right there. Yeah, no, I mean you talk about, getting into it on the entry level, and that's the biggest thing, is at least to me, seeing the growth of the other women's sports, at least, the leagues that are in the city already in the WNBA and the NWSL, those are leagues that are brand new and relation to their men's counterparts. The WNBA has been around for like 15 years, 20 years. And, they're obviously at a really great point right now where even, in the years before Caitlin Clark came in, there was a lot of really great talent and legends in this game. Obviously, in Seattle, we've had Sue Bird and Brianna Stewart, right? And then in NWSL, we were so lucky to have Megan Rapinoe. Obviously, Megan and Sue were a couple, so we got lucky here and got such a great power couple in the area. And obviously, that's a league that's relatively brand new, started in 2013, with the Reign being one of the inaugural teams in that. So, obviously the PWHL, like you said, the hockey has been around, but this is a league now that's in year two. And Kraken fans have obviously seen their team grow and develop and, show a little more character. And we'll get that from this league, and even to that point, talk about doing something on a Sunday. Um, Yes, thank you for mentioning the practice as well. Those are free. This will probably come out the morning of Saturday. We'll get this out real early, like 8 or 7. It'll be posted way before then, but we'll push it more than in the morning when folks are awake. And those free to come after practice. They're right after the Kraken practice at Kraken Community Iceplex. There will be autographs for fans. There's a girls' clinic happening later in the day. So, those options are there. And then for the game, you can get in for a ticket as cheap as $30 right now on Ticketmaster. There's a lot of single tickets in the lower bowl, and then in the upper bowl, that like little ring around on the main concourse that's all but sold out, and 103 is the only section that's not sold out, and then the upper bowl, is where a lot of the tickets are. So, it's a lot cheaper than a Kraken game, I'll tell you that. And there's better talent on the ice. So, we'll wrap it up here, Sylvia. What do you think about Seattle as an expansion team? Obviously, and this is just, I'll set it up here a little bit, and I hope I don't take everything that you might have been thinking about, but obviously in Seattle, we'd love to have a team here. There is the women's pro hockey account that has oh gosh, I forgot his name. They have the little puck mascot, and they say that we're ready. Um, and I know it's kind of on the whiteboard there, but I've got all the teams we're covering. It's like 33 right now, so I mean, it'd be a lot to add a 34th. Um, but in just terms of the harsh reality of it, um and looking at things, I imagine that the PWHL will look, closer to their original six here, probably a Pittsburgh or a Detroit. um I got to look at the tour to see the other cities that are there, but I imagine it starts there because it would be really tough in terms of the travel on these athletes to just put a city in Seattle and no other Western team, I imagine. the league will have its Western expansion. Maybe a Vancouver, probably a California, but I don't think it'll be these two teams that the seventh and eighth franchises in this league. Unfortunately, again, I think I'd love to have it here. We obviously have talked about it. Um, and it's documented how fans have come out to support their women's teams here in the area. I've seen it firsthand with the storm and the rain, and we're getting a minor league soccer team here in the area, all that stuff, right? So I don't know. What do you think about it? Have I taken all of your material? What are your brutal, honest thoughts? Whatever. You don't even have to be brutal or honest. What are your thoughts, on Seattle as an expansion team, either now or down the road?
Yeah, I mean, ideally for me, a Vancouver Seattle expansion would be awesome, right? Like having those be the two cities that get to team next. I think that would be amazing. I think it would be an awesome opportunity for a lot of young players to see again that there's a possibility that there is space for them. But I also recognize that hockey culture as a whole in our area, unless you live in like Bellingham, Spokane, close to the border, nah, it's not very big. It's not very existent. We're very much a football, like, the Seahawks baseball kind of state. Um, so I mean, I think it'll be Seattle who gets picked? No. Do I hope so? Yeah. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't love hockey who is hearing this information, that there's going to be an expansion team who doesn't wish that it was them. Um, I I think for a future Seattle team, for a future PWHL team, when the westward expansion does start, I do think Seattle will be one of the first teams to, or one of the first cities to get a PWHL team. But what I'm really hoping is that something like the Takeover Tour, the same way that the Kraken have done for our area, not just Seattle, but also for the rest of Washington State and the Upper Pacific Northwest, where it's created this kind of like, oh, I've never thought about playing hockey. I didn't realize I could play, hockey in the desert or like hockey somewhere that isn't, close to the border. I do really hope that it creates that it inspires that same kind of sentiment. And I hope that it starts with getting our college women club teams the support that they need. Um, because I mean, if CSS has those streams of the UW women's team, they're awesome players. They've fully, built that entire team up themselves. That's like full grassroots organizing by the players. I know again, right before I graduated Western 2022, right before the pandemic.
Mm.
Western players were also looking to start something at the Bellingham Iceplex. I know WSU had a team for a little bit. They were also looking to start something. So I think, if we get this what's the word in English? Sorry. If we get this like want and this feeling of
Oh,
we
sure.
want, yeah, if we want a Seattle team, then let's start developing our young players so that we have players from Seattle to send to the PWHL so that they can come home and be part of this expansion. Um, I also think if we wait a little bit, we can think of better names than the sound. And I think that'll be good. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think Seattle will be a top pick in these two new games, like you said. I'm sure, or these two new teams. I'm sure Pittsburgh will want something. Pittsburgh has done an amazing job of growing their women's or just their youth hockey development with like the little penguins and things like that. So I'm sure it'll be something like that. Um, but look, I'm not saying no. If we get a PWHL team here in Seattle and one in Vancouver, you will see me there every day. I will be front and center. Just hit me up. Let me know.
Yeah, no, I think you present some great points, and um I'll tell you, as someone who is the only one who has been at every UW women's club hockey home game. And as you mentioned, is the streams. Thank you for plugging that. Um, yeah, I would love to see that sort of support on a general basis because you talk about being ready, right? Being ready looks like supporting that, and being out there for that. Those games are $5 to get into and to support that team. As you mentioned, that is a team that has grown itself, from that group that started it. I talked to Mia Filardi, who is from Boston, actually. I'm sure she would love to be here in this game. She's playing overseas now. And that ownership group, sorry, that captain group that started that team, Coach Mel White's still there. Coach supports us all the time. I've got a photo of her on my desk here with me, with the bald Charles, you know. It's yeah, so I would love to see that. I will get a little brash and aggressive here. um, you talk about growing the game in this area, that looks like either covering those games or supporting that team if you're a fan, and so yeah, I think in the reality, I think that it'll be two teams that are closer to their original six, and in the meantime, it's like the league wouldn't do this, right? But it's like, hey, the cities that we did the tour that missed out, great. We loved what you saw. We loved your turnout. Keep growing it so that when we announce more expansion, we want two more, you can, say, hey, you can build on it, and you're obviously on the short list to say, hey, we're gonna come back because I imagine this list, and I'll pull up the list while I'm yammering. Um, but I imagine this list, is one that they'll probably look at and knock off as they go on. Yeah, Seattle, Denver. Denver makes sense. Quebec City. Oh God, I bet Quebec City would get one. Buffalo, New York. Yeah, then you've got more teams around New York. Uh, North Carolina is fascinating. I like that they're going to North Carolina. Detroit, yeah, Detroit, St. Louis. Those are a lot that make sense. And I imagine they'll go there. But to see them do Seattle and Vancouver is really encouraging to me, because you look at this and there's nothing in California yet, which is fascinating to me. I'm sure they'll do another one where they do California, right? Because they've got what? At least four teams rinks that they could use, right? Um, you look at it and there's nine of these games, right? And you split it, and five of them on that side of the country, five of them are on that side of the country. It just makes sense for travel. The WNBA has chronicled its struggles with charter flights, right? And that was a whole thing. And um, so yeah, I mean, if you had Seattle, Vancouver, then those two teams playing each other is easy. Both of those teams obviously have NHL teams that could support, at least the early start. I know Send Hockey published an article about, obviously you'd have to, if they were to play in Climate Pledge Arena, what would it look like? You'd probably open the lower bowl like they do for Storm games. They argued that it might take away from the atmosphere. I disagree with that because Storm games don't always sell out and their atmospheres are great. I will tell you firsthand as someone who had been at the ones this past year where they had a core four, a big four, but they went with core four as their nickname. It was great. But the year before, when they were a lottery team and they had one of the worst records in the league, their atmosphere was still playoff level. Neka Agumake, who is a legend in the WNBA, told me that. She said, I was on the Sparks. We were here at the last game of the year. Both teams were at the bottom of the standings, and it was a playoff atmosphere despite not having something to play for. So, I think there are arguments for yes, getting a team now, and arguments against for getting a team, for later. Um, but either way, I think we're at a good point here, not only for the league, but for a potential expansion team. Sorry, I am yammering extra hard. Um, Not only because the PWHL has did so well in the first year, the branding does look great now that we actually have team names and jerseys, right? But to be able to have this tour and to be able to go to these cities and know that you will be supported so well, and for Seattle that they said, hey, you're stop one. We saw the rivalry series. We want you to be stop one to begin us here. So yeah, no, it's exciting. But anyway, as I mentioned, as Silvia mentioned, the practices are open at Kraken Community Explex. The day that you see this, we will repost our little schedule thing I made. And tickets to this game are still available. You can get one ticket if you want to go alone. You're gonna fly solo. 29.50 is the cheapest cost right now. Two tickets if you want to go, you and a buddy. Me and Sylvia are going. Pretend me we're going. Well, you're already going. 29.50 again for one per ticket. So yeah, no, it's not hard to get into this game. It's cheaper than a Kraken game. You will probably see more offense than a Kraken game. Not a low bar to set. So yeah, until we see you next time, maybe we'll do a post game sort of reaction to that game later that night. We'll see. We'll work on it. Until we see you next time, take care of yourselves. Be well. Support this game, please. And do whatever you can to make today a great day.